Okay, it's game time.
Shoot!
Get down!
Hasta luego.
I have this.
Feast on this!
What up, it's Shankster94, and welcome to my ultimate weapon showcase of Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica. So I would follow this timestamp on the screen if you want to get straight to the weapons, cause I have this whole prologue I like to do to open my showcases with, even for a mediocre game like this. Just so you know, I still provide commentary throughout the entire showcase. So Survivor 2, like the title implies, is the second entry in a sub-series within Resident Evil titled Gun Survivor. Yet Survivor 2 bears no similarity to its predecessor other than the first-person perspective, which itself is improved as you can actually see your weapon equipped and fired. The latter half of this game's title, Code Veronica, has far more relevancy to this game and its weapons. 11 of the 12 weapons in this game are carried over directly from Code Veronica, with one new weapon exclusive to this game. Another way to put it would be nearly all of Code Veronica's weapons are brought over, minus 3. The M100Ps, the Glock 17, and the MR7 sniper rifle. All the rest of the weapons make up the 11 unoriginal weapons of Survivor 2. This game basically takes all of Code Veronica's assets and reuses them for a giant arcade game. Gameplay is slightly comparable to the first-person mode of Code Veronica, but with character movement a bit more fluid with the ability to strafe as well as turn. The inventory consists entirely of weapons which are picked up through spawns instead of fixed points. That being said, there won't be any location clips in this showcase, and also, the weapons don't have descriptions either since there's no examining them. Unlike Code Veronica, certain weapons can only be used by certain characters, and yet another unfortunately scrapped quintessential element. Even though, unlike the first Survivor game, you can somewhat see the weapon, there are no unique reload animations for the weapons. Instead, they all get a generic click when equipped and collecting ammo through weapon drops. With all that considered, this will be a stripped down showcase compared to just my last one. So now let me tell you how I'm displaying Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica for the showcase. One of the worst facts about the game is it never having been released in the United States. Barring a particular large portion of the fan base from easy access, or even knowledge of its existence for quite some time, and also cementing this game's frame rate at the PAL standard of 25 frames per second. Thanks to the power of emulation and file sharing, playing Survivor 2 nowadays can be a breeze. I am playing using the PC SX2 emulator, since the only console release the game got was for PS2, with its other platform being the Sega Naomi. Internal game resolution is of course set to 4K, with a widescreen hack to fill in the black pillars of 4x3 without stretching the picture during real-time gameplay. Static elements like the inventory will still be stretched out, but the experience will hardly be affected. For the first time since I began the second remaking era of weapon showcases, I am not using any available third-party texture enhancements for the game's graphics. Just simple internal resolution upscaling. Doesn't seem like anyone in the community cares enough about this game to give it a graphical overhaul, at least at the time of making the showcase, and I personally don't blame them. That being said, this showcase will also have the most subtle visual improvements compared to my original weapon review being only a resolution increase and a widescreen hack. But on the informational side of things, this showcase will still blow the original review out of the water, as I'm going to follow all of the latest available steps established in my structural routine to a T. Speaking of which, now to go over those specific steps. To visually assist, I will use snippets from that original review. To start off, I arrange the weapons into categories loosely based on weapon classes and place them in a rough order of firepower. If there's more than one weapon in a category, then they'd usually be showcased in order of obtaining them. But in this case, there is no fixed order, so I'll just repeat the order I did CVX's weapons in. I start showcasing by introducing each weapon in the inventory. Normally I'd go over the ammo types, then inspect the weapon and read its description, but since there are no ammo boxes or descriptions, I'll be skipping those steps. If the weapon has been featured in any Resident Evil game prior to the current one, which includes nearly all of them for this game, I'll make sure to mention them. Afterwards, I'll provide an image of the weapon's real-life counterpart, if applicable. A disclaimer for all weapon showcases on the channel is the source of my IRL weapon information. I use the Internet Movie Firearms Database, an online weapon wiki for movies, TV, and video games whose pages can be edited by virtually anyone, which shoulders the risk of misinformation and missing details when stating the real-life versions of game weapons. People watching my vids with supposed knowledge in weaponry may feel pressed to call out those potential mistakes, but once the video is uploaded, nothing can be reasonably done beyond a comment and description edit. Following the IRL mention, I'd show weapon locations and mention their appearance in other game modes, but neither of those exist also. So we'll just go straight to the weapon testing at that point. I'll proceed to test fire the weapon in a safe, enemy-free, well-lit area that I call the hub in these showcases, which I'll give a brief tour of after this intro. While test firing, I will add an optimized slow motion effect to one or more of the shots fired, with automatic fire getting a speed boost and explosions getting a reverse effect. No satisfying reload animation, sadly, so it's straight to enemy tests from there. To keep things very simple and consistent, I will use the same exact set of enemies as my CVX Ultimate Weapon Showcase used. This will also determine if statistics were also carried over from CVX to Survivor 2. After reviewing the results of the enemy test and comparing them to past weapons, I will declare the current weapon concluded and share available in-game cutscenes depicting it being used or fired, which thankfully are in this game. This will smoothly transition into the next weapon of the lineup, and the process restarts. Oh, by the way, there are no parts or upgrades either. Upon reviewing all weapons of the game, I'll add the total number of them to the overall total weapon count of the series, and then announce the next game in the series to cover its weapons. So now for a rapid tour of my selected hub for this weapon showcase. What do you know, it's the same location I used in my original review of this game's weapons, as it meets all the criteria in spades. Alrighty people, I'm sure you're hankering to get on with the weapons, and I'm sure as fuck done reading this typed up prologue script, which took way too long to type up. Let's get on with Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica Ultimate Weapon Showcase. Alright, as usual, we're gonna start with the one and only non-firearm, the combat knife. So here's the same exact combat knife that I used for the CVX review, like a real life one, just for comparison. So this can only be used by Rodrigo Juan Raval in dungeon mode. So, as you can see in game, you can't see it at all because you can only see it when you use it. So let's go ahead and test it out the only way we can. All right, now of course he can hit against the wall still. Okay, so of course I'm gonna test the knife on some zombies. Oh, by the way, after looking back on my original review, I realized that I tested every single weapon of the game on a Bandersnatch in the original review. I am not gonna do that again this time. Instead, I'm gonna keep to the same variety of enemies as I did in the CVX Ultimate Weapon Showcase. So of course we're gonna test the knife on some zombies. Okay, so I tried very carefully to keep it to one hit per slash, just like I did in CVX, and takes around 4 slashes, it seems, on average. Now, of course, if you're really close up, it's possible. See, these zombies aren't the most suitable because they have explosives on their backs. So among all the tests I've done, it seems to take between 2 and 4 hits of the knife. I say hits because, again, you can get more than one hit in a single slash. So I don't really have much to say other than that. This knife is still OP, as you can see, even in a mediocre game like this. But that was a fun test, especially using explosive zombies for explosive effect. But yeah, being Rodrigo's only weapon, of course they keep it OP, so he has a fighting chance. I don't think you could score any criticals with that knife, just so you're aware. All right, well, that is gonna conclude the one and only non-firearm, the combat knife. Alright, let's turn on the heat for this mediocre weapon showcase. Moving into the firearms. First one, of course, is the Beretta 93 Replica again. Of course, saw this in Code Veronica X. I have a ton of ammo for it, as you can see. And of course, it is based on the real-life Beretta 93 Replica once more. Here's Claire holding it. While it doesn't have the custom part anymore, you can still switch between manual and auto fire. So it has the function of both types of Berettas, but they're just within the same gun now for this game. So first let's test it out in manual mode, which is semi-automatic. Has a pretty fast fire rate. It's not fixed. So even though there's no ammo for this game, some weapons do have a limit for how long you can continuously fire until they have to pause for a supposed reload. Doesn't appear that this gun has it at all. So because I fired like nearly 100 shots already. So let's switch to auto mode and test it that way. Can go nearly automatic with this one. All right. Well, yeah, so there doesn't appear to be any sort of pause to have a pseudo reload of any sort. So we'll go ahead now and test this on some zombies. Okay, so I tested it on more zombies than I can count in the moment right there, but the variety in this game is so vast, it's even worse than CVX. So we're really not gonna get any consistency here, and you really shouldn't take these values to pure heart because of just how wide the range is. Between all the tests, I think one of those zombies literally only took 1 shot, while the most was close to 9 shots. So there's your range right there. Based on the tests I was just conducting, I gave you the average on the screen based on the playback. But yeah, there you go. All right, I'm just telling you all here and now that my enthusiasm for this game is near 0, and I really don't care how I'm conducting myself very much here. I mean, overall, it's still gonna be way better than the OG review, but I have no enthusiasm for this game, so I really don't care how this comes out. So I'm kind of just half-assing it here, only doing what's necessary, but this game skims down a lot of the functionalities of my weapon showcases as of late, so I'm not left with much of anything. I'm taking more time talking than actually going over weapons here. So let's move on from this godforsaken weapon. That's it for the handgun. Moving right along, now for the next set of pistols, the gold Lugers, that only Steve could use, of course. And of course, these are based off of the Luger P08, but more specifically, the Marushin P08 Hermann Goring, again. And here they are in game. Let's go ahead and fire them. Okay, nothing much else to show beyond that. Let's go ahead and test these on some zombies. Pretty much same result as Claire's handgun. Had a vast range between like 3 and 9 shots, more or less. I should mention that nearly all weapons could achieve a critical shot if you time it right. If you get really close, you get that ding. That's your cue to go for a critical. It only works though if they're perfectly centered on your screen. I learned that the hard way, but let me demonstrate that to you. It's not as easy as it looks. So yeah, this is ideally how you would fight. save you a lot of ammo and time if you mastered that maneuver. I just had to demonstrate that to you. But anyway, that's gonna conclude the gold Lugers, as well as all handguns. All right, let's take the fire rate up a notch, a huge one, and go over some submachine guns. Same submachine guns, of course, only Steve can use them. And these are, of course, based off the Ingram Mac 11. Here you go, and here's Steve equipping them in game. Now, the thing about this is, if I continuously fire these, he will pause for some sort of reload. So let's test it out. See, he pauses and all of that happens as a click. He completely freezes. There's no animation to actually show the reloading mechanism. It's pretty pathetic, really. So every 26%, Steve has to quote unquote reload it. Well, let's go ahead and test these on a zombie. Okay, so the range on this thing is even more vast than the pistols, which kind of makes sense, being a little weaker. One of them took around 17 shots, I want to say. It's because, even though I was only trying to pop off one shot, he has two guns, and you could clearly see in most of those tests how each trigger pull was laying 2 hits on the zombie. So I was counting double whenever that occurred. So yeah, that's the range for you guys. Just a wider variety, but of course, the regular way to use it would be to continuously fire, like so. And you can still land criticals with this thing. Look at that ridiculousness. There you go. All right. Well, that's gonna go ahead and conclude the submachine gun. All right, now for the next and last machine gun, the assault rifle. This is the same AK-47 from Code Veronica X, of course, based off the real-life AK-47, without a stock, at least. There you go. I have way too much ammo for this thing, as you can see. 816%. Oh my gosh. And yeah, you can barely see it. You can only see the barrel of it, really. Let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, so it's just like the submachine guns in the sense that it does have to pause to reload, but I noticed that the percentage wasn't going down with each individual shot like the submachine gun. I think this is more like the assault rifle in CVX and Resident Evil 3, where each percent is about 3 shots. Let me check that. Okay, every 2 shots is a percent. So let's see how many shots it takes before you have to pause to reload, apparently. So we're at 780% right now. 16% before you have to pause to reload the weapon. All right, well, let's go ahead and test this on a zombie. I'm curious if that one zombie with full clothing and was barfing instead of going after me to bite me, I wonder if just that kind of zombie is programmed to be slightly more powerful. But yeah, right there, that's how you should use the assault rifle, or go for the critical shots. Save a lot of ammo. Alrighty, well, that's gonna conclude the assault rifle, as well as all machine guns. All right, now for the one and only shotgun again, the SPAS 12. Now, this is the first weapon I'm going over so far in the showcase where both Claire and Steve could use it. I'm just decidedly using it with Steve here to even the weapons out between them. And I'm not gonna bother testing it with both sexes in this game because you don't even see the whole weapon, let alone the character. The only way to see the character is if you have enemies behind you and the camera sort of shifts a little bit into top-down third person briefly. It's just not worth showing with two sexes, so I'm not gonna worry about that for this showcase. There's the shotgun, of course, based off the real-life Frankie SPAS 12. And here it is in game. Just see the tip of it, just like the AK, kinda lame. But let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, well, at least it has a sort of realistic fire rate, but still no pump action, even though by the looks of it, it's supposed to be pump action. It can be both, but the indicators are strong. Okay, so the shotgun is the first one where I'm actually gonna take it up a notch with the enemies. So just, well, at least similar to Code Veronica X, in this one, I'm just gonna test it on a hunter. Okay, so that took 4 hits. Let's conduct a few more tests since I'm right near where they spawn anyway. And of course, you can score a critical with the shotgun still, so you can narrow it down to 1 shot if you're good enough. But I'm gonna go for more close-ups. One more test. Okay, there we go. That was probably the best test right there. So all close up, but no critical. It took me 3 shotgun shells. From a slightly longer distance, it took up to 4, but of course you can narrow it down to just 1 if you score that critical. You should always be close up like I was. Alrighty, well, that's gonna go ahead and conclude the one and only shotgun, the SPAS 12 once more. Alright, here we go. One and only Magnum time. It's the Colt Python again. Here's the real life counterpart, nickel plated of course. And here's Claire holding it a game. This is a Claire only weapon. Let's fire it. Despite having a cylinder with a limited amount of holes, you can continuously fire it. So yeah, not much more to see there. Now, I'm actually going to test this again on Alexia Ashford, just like I did in CVX. Because there is a point in this game, even in dungeon mode where you do fight her, she's actually the final boss of the second overall area, the underground. Alright, so it took me 12 shots to defeat Alexia Ashford with the Colt Python. Now keep in mind, while it may be a lot more than Code Veronica X took, she also is the final boss of a whole stage here. So they needed to make her a lot more formidable. Maybe this is more closer to if you win against her second form in Code Veronica X, if you want to make any sort of comparison. But otherwise, yeah, I really wouldn't compare it to Code Veronica X at all in this case. But yep, 12 shots. She's pretty powerful to take that many shots against a revolver. All right. Well, that's going to conclude regular overviewing of this Magnum. However, even for a mediocre game like this, I do want to do my traditional Magnum headshot. I think it's a little more entertaining than Code Veronica X because it's all up in your face and in first person, but also you get a big critical slapped onto the screen. So let's do the explosive critical headshot, why don't we? Headshot. All right, well, that's ultimately gonna conclude the Magnum. All right, we're already on the last category of this weapon showcase, the explosive weapons. The first one I'm going to start with is the bow gun. Now, why am I putting this in explosive category and not miscellaneous? Well, that's because the regular bolts don't carry over. It's only the explosive bolts created from gunpowder from Code Veronica X that's carried over here. So here's the bow gun in game. Looking pretty nice in this view, I will admit. Let's go ahead and test it out. Too bad Claire's the only one who could use it in this game, so no fast firing with Chris. Well, this being in the explosive weapon category, I'm gonna test this weapon on a Bandersnatch. Alright, so between two Bandersnatches, it took 2 explosive arrows each. That is exactly the same from Code Veronica X. So I'm glad there's some similarity there. But yeah, just look at this. What a golden opportunity to show you this ludicrousy. Gun power bowgun. Are you for real right now? I'm pretty sure they meant to put gunpowder bowgun, because if you remember, the explosive bolts or arrows are created from the gunpowder combined with regular bolts. All right, well, that's gonna go ahead and conclude the gun power bowgun. All right, next explosive weapon, the grenade launcher. This is, of course, the same M79 grenade launcher we have seen several times so far in this series, and it's based off the real-life M79 grenade launcher, as usual. All right, here it is in game. You could barely see it, and it's also being blocked by your compass on the screen. Let's test it out. I guess you could technically say this is the only weapon in the entire game that has a physical reload of some sort, only because you have to load the round every time. And even then, you could barely see it. So it's using the regular grenade rounds. There are no flame rounds, no acid rounds, not even BOW gas rounds. They missed an opportunity there. So we'll go ahead and test this on a Bandersnatch as well. Oh, okay, that was cool. So it's pretty hard to determine how many projectiles cause damage, because I'm pretty sure since the Bandersnatch has the same exact animations carried over from Code Veronica X, that they also brought over the invincibility frames when they go into their animation. Although it's a smaller window, because as you saw in that second test, one shot took him out because the projectiles were spaced out enough to where the second one that hit him made it into the window of him being able to be hit again. Makes a little bit of sense. You could still score a critical with a freaking grenade launcher, where it just focuses nearly all of the projectiles on him. See, it's too bad I cannot move my camera up and down. The game controls that for me. Okay, that made it really easy, though, to see just how many individual projectiles it's gonna take. It took 3 to defeat the Bandersnatch with a grenade launcher. So there's a little bit more precise testing right there. But this game implores you to go for close-up critical shots all the time. So just keep that in mind, regardless of what I'm doing, all right? So that's gonna conclude the grenade launcher. All right, now for the big boy of the explosive weapons, usually, the rocket launcher. Same exact one from CVX. This is based on the AT4 real-life weapon. Here it is in game. You can just see the front end of it. Test it out. All right, pretty standard. And of course, being the rocket launcher, we will stick to our tradition when it comes to rocket launchers. I'm just gonna test this on all the enemies I can find in this game, so enjoy the explosive sideshow. right, moving on. Now for the linear launcher again. And as you can see, I'm playing as Chris Redfield specifically here because when you unlock him in dungeon mode by completing any 6th mission of dungeon mode, he comes equipped with an infinite linear launcher. But it's worth mentioning that Claire and Steve can also get the linear launcher if you score over 300 million on any stage. They'll have it for that area from then on out, I'm pretty sure. But for Chris, he comes pre-equipped with it with infinite ammo, so I'm actually going to test it out with Chris here. One of my friends in Discord pointed out as I'm recording this, if you look over at ID number, there's a freaking typo. Amateurs. All right, here it is in game. And it's got the scope automatically, although I don't think you could zoom in at all, so it's pointless to have on the screen like that, if you ask me. So let's go ahead and test it out. Alright, pretty much exactly the same from Code Veronica X, go figure. Well, the most appropriate enemy for me to test this on is Alexia again, just in her first form since that's all that's available in this game. Alright, so I conducted a test multiple times, and majority of them took 3 shots from the linear launcher. One of them took 4. It was during an animation, though, so part of me almost wants to say, oh, maybe she had invincibility frames. Whether or not she did, it seems it's going to be pretty consistent with this specific instance of Alexia Ashford and the linear launcher from Chris. Well, that's going to conclude the linear launcher. Alright, now for the final weapon of Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica. The one and only exclusive weapon to this game, the Panzerfaust EX. Now, this is, believe it or not, based off of a real-life weapon, the Panzerfaust 3. Alright, now here it is in game. Looking pretty interesting. I wonder if that's supposed to be a scope on the top of it, by the looks of it. Alright, let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, so based on that, I know it seems like it's some sort of rocket launcher. However, this is a weapon that is more appropriate to test on enemies to really see its usage, because there is something special about it. So here I am near a bunch of zombies in the room. Here's what's special about this weapon when I test it against them. I couldn't have done that more perfectly. I just cleared the entire room with a single rocket from that thing, or whatever it is. But as you saw, it didn't explode immediately upon impact. It actually stuck to one of the zombies, had a time delay, then exploded. So if anything, this weapon is most similar to the mine thrower from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, the way it operates. And also, as you notice, it can only hold one rocket or mine, whatever it is, at a time. And that's because you can collect these occasionally through the stages. I don't know if they appear randomly, but I do know they do spawn in some fixed locations, depending on the stages. But again, you can only have one rocket per weapon, and it takes up a whole slot, but it does a lot. You can see why that's a one-time use case. All right, well, that's gonna conclude the Panzerfaust EX. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are the weapons of Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm gonna be honest, I just didn't have a lot of fun with it. This game does not give me any sort of enthusiasm whatsoever. I just have to be brutally honest. It is definitely in my bottom 5 of all-time Resident Evil games. In fact, this game is less engaging than even those shitty multiplayer games that I bag on a lot. At least those have some engagement and you can play with friends and, you know, some story elements. This game, while technically it does have a story through arcade mode, it takes place all in Claire's head. It's a useless game in the franchise. Honestly, people could go on without it, and it wouldn't hurt the franchise whatsoever. When it comes to weapons, they're all carryovers from Code Veronica X, and only one exclusive weapon in the game. And it does have a neat effect, I will admit, but it's not anything we haven't seen before. So yeah, this game is a total dump, and I didn't care that much for it when it came to the production of this weapon showcase. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed. There's definitely no secret unusable weapons in this one, but we will add the weapons of this game to our overall count. So there are 12 weapons total in this game, plus the 58 that we have reviewed up to this point. That makes our grand total so far 70 weapons flat. We have gone over 70 weapons in the franchise, and we still got a long way to go. Alrighty, people, so now to announce the next game. Unfortunately, it's another mediocre game. However, I'm actually a little more excited about this one, because at least it's unique and original in every sense of the word. That next game is Resident Evil Gaiden for the Game Boy Color. And while some people behind your screens are shaking your head right now, the fact that I'm looking more forward to that one than I am this one should speak volumes. So look forward to that. Until then, this is Shankster94, aka the Gamer Shankster. Slap a like on the video to show me you appreciate it, and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you click that notification bell and turn it to all so you get notified as soon as I upload a new video. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias, starting with X Twitter. I'm pretty active on here. I have a lot of mutuals that I like to follow and occasionally talk about Resident Evil. Facebook page, it's just an extension of my YouTube, but if you want another outlet to follow, go for it. And support me on Patreon if you will. Shout out to these two individuals for being my current active patrons. And finally, don't forget to join my Discord server if you haven't already. This is a great place for you guys to talk about your mutual enthusiasm for me and my channel, or if you're just Resident Evil fans, it's definitely a place for you, because I designed it heavily around Resident Evil. And yeah, give it a follow. Alright, people, that's gonna be it for this weapon showcase. If I'm completely frank, I am so glad it's over. Fuck this game. Peace out.